Welcome again to FAIRtax Power Radio. I'm Bob Paxton.
And I'm Ron Malero.
And we are the
FAIRtax Guys.
And my surrogate's gone. But
yeah.
We want to thank Jim Bennett for being with us here last week. A lot of good information with that, and hopefully we can have him back for too much longer.
Yeah, it's important to recognize the volunteers all around the country for what they do, because one thing to remember, all the national and all the state organizations and FAIRtax organizations, all volunteers. There are no paid positions.
All right.
None.
And we will give everyone our email address again, thefairtaxguys@gmail.com, thefairtaxguys@gmail.com, or, of course, our FAIRtax Guys Facebook page. You can leave us a question or a comment there. And, of course, one of the things we like to do here on FAIRtax Power Radio is keep an eye on Congress.gov. Now, this episode was actually recorded about a week ago, so these figures are a week old.
Yeah.
But last time we looked, 370 proposals. If you go to Congress.gov and you type the string, put it in quotes, Internal Revenue Code in quotes, see how many hits that brings back. It brings back 370 hits since the beginning of Congress, which started in January. And of course, they haven't been in session all those days. How many? If you count this, how many proposals per day they have been in session, it comes out to be
more than 10, because 370, and at that point, they had 32 days in the House that they were actually in session. 32 days in session and 370 proposals to change the tax code. Do the math, folks. It's more than 10 a day to change the tax code. Why are we tolerating this? This is crazy. And, of course, why are there so many proposals to change the tax code?
Because there are so many lobbyists running around D.C. with a lot of campaign cash in their hands. Mm-hmm. You can guarantee you that there's a lobbyist behind just about every one of these changes.
So it's a bad situation. It is not set up for the citizens of America. It's set up for the power brokers, and we need to fix it.
Now, every once in a while, we like to kind of shine a light on some of these proposals that are being proposed here at Congress.gov.
He usually finds a good one.
And I like this one. This is H.R. 1825, sponsored by Darren LaHood of Illinois. It says, the bill to amend the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 to modernize the Office of the National Taxpayer Advocate. Now, I would like to know what the National Taxpayer Advocate advocates for. Think we can get him or her, whoever it is, to advocate for getting rid of the Internal Revenue Service, getting rid of the income tax, getting rid of withholding, getting rid of tax returns, getting rid of all of the nasty things that come with the income tax. If the taxpayer really got a good deal, it would be the fair tax. Let's see if we can modernize the National Taxpayer Advocate into doing that.
If I'm not mistaken, her name is Nina Olson, and she has been involved in several reports that have done, and I have another one today in which I think I've got a quote from her that we'll get to later on. Okay, so, yep. Anyways, a lot of tax proposals, a lot of ways to change the tax code, make it more and more complicated for us every single day. And remember, this is tax season. April 15th is coming right up. And when you sign that thing, whether you sign it physically or electronically, using the tax program, you are certifying that you understand every word of the tax code. All 76,000 pages of it.
No problem.
Yeah,
right. Said nobody ever. Not even Jade Wiley, our CPA friend, can really figure out every little bit of it all the time.
No,
I'll tell you what,
it's bad.
It's just impossible.
And again, we want to thank Jim Bennett for last week talking about the volunteers. One of the things we talked about briefly was that a few weeks ago, my wife and I and other volunteers from our area, the Ocala, Florida area, were at what's called in Ocala a strawberry festival. For a small town like Ocala, this is a huge festival. There's over 30,000 people a day that attend that thing, and it's only on for one day, a Saturday. And we have set up a FAIRtax information booth. I think this was our 4th year that we did it. Lots of people come by.
Yeah, people like strawberries.
Yep, people like strawberries, yeah, and they are good. Except we're so busy, we never have a chance to get any. So anyways, and we see lots of people. We talk, some people have heard about it. Yep, I am familiar with the FAIRtax. Do you have something for me to sign? And we, of course, we do have petitions for them to sign. Other people have not heard about it, so we will give them palm cards, the prebate cards, and we'll discuss it with them. If they have questions, we'll do our best to respond to the questions and so forth. And sometimes we get those folks, they hear about it, and it sounds simple enough, and it sounds effective enough, and they'll sign. Lots of people say, well, I'll take these and I'll go home and study it, because we do have websites on the back. So, and then we have some people who don't want to hear about it. They just don't want to hear about it.
Brainwashed by the income tax.
Yeah. Thanks, Gabe. Yep.
Funny thing is, when you're brainwashed, you don't realize it.
No. And it was late in the afternoon, and we were kind of tired because my wife and I had been there since 8 o'clock in the morning. And this young man in the blue shirt there, he said it was unfair. In fact, I asked my wife to write up a summary of the discussion she had with this guy. So how are we going to do this, Bob?
Okay. Well, actually, I will be your wife this time.
Yeah, I figured you would.
I'll be the her, and so you get to be the crotchety old man. I always get the good parts of these role playing games.
Yeah, that's why I left it to him.
One of these days,
anyways,
you'll learn.
Go ahead, Elaine.
Sir, would you like some information about the fair tax?
I know about it. It's okay, but it isn't fair.
How? How is it not fair?
Well, if a guy earns $50K a year and he needs to spend all of it to live, but another guy who earns $5 million a year and only spends $1 million, well, that's not fair.
Why not? I mean, first of all, there's the prebate. The fair tax has a prebate to make sure that it
but
is fair.
he still has to spend all $50K to live, and the rich guy doesn't.
Well, why are you so obsessed with how much somebody else makes or spends? That's class warfare.
It's not. It's just fair. That's someone making $5 million who only spends $1 million, and the guy making $50K, he needs to spend it all. It just isn't fair.
But the $50K guy only spends taxed on what he spends above the poverty line, which gives him a much lower effective tax rate. The rich guy's going to pay much more in taxes on his $1 million worth of spending, because the prebate's not going to cover a great deal of what he has to take out of his pocket.
But it's not fair. Look at how much he's not spending.
But it is fair. Listen to me.
No, it's not. How can it be fair if the guy making $50K needs to spend all of it, while the guy making $5 million only needs to spend, well, he doesn't even need to spend one. I'm sorry, I'm interjecting there. Anyways, only spends $1 million.
Yeah, but listen, you're getting into this class warfare thing again. It is fair, and here's why.
No, it's not. It's not fair. And when you graduate from first grade math class, please talk to me again. And then he walks away.
It'll be about the same time you graduate from charm school, my friend.
Yeah. So not only was he really stubborn about
Unfortunately, I had a baseball game that afternoon. I couldn't be there to watch that in person.
That would have been good.
That would have been fun.
So, I mean, there are people like that. And the poor fella has been brainwashed by the tax code, the current tax code. People are upset, and I've said this before. The current tax code has created a nation of people who are obsessed with what other people make, okay? Why don't you mind your own darn business? Pay attention to what you're doing. Now, we've gone over this before. Let's take that scenario where the guy earning $50K has a family of 4, maybe mom and dad and 2 kids, all right? They do get the prebate in addition to whatever he's earning. And if we're under the fair tax scenario here, he's taking home his entire paycheck and he's getting the prebate, okay? So what's bad about that? He's got a lot more money in his pocket. His family has a lot more disposable income.
Why is your definition of fair? Everybody has the same amount left over after they've spent what they had to. I mean, that's.
This guy was insisting that whatever they earn, they had to spend the whole thing. Now, are we really going to get the government into a situation where if he earns $5 million, he must spend $5 million? That's crazy.
Well, we had a similar thing a few weeks ago. Somebody was using the example of, this guy makes $50,000, it takes 40 to live, and he only has this much left over. And this guy makes $5 billion, only spends, half of that, and has a whole lot more left over. And that means that the guy that has a lot left over isn't being taxed enough.
Yeah.
That only works if you think the government's role is to make sure that everybody has the same amount of stuff left over after they take care of their expenses. That's just not the case. I mean, this is America where you have the freedom to go as far as your skills and your education and your work ethic will take you. What's not fair is to have something taken from you that you earned and given to somebody that didn't earn it.
Yep, and that was an abhorrent idea to the founders and the framers of the Constitution. You'll notice that the original Constitution forbade an income tax. They hated the idea of an income tax because they could see how it was abused in other countries and other cultures and so forth.
Thomas Jefferson himself told us that, didn't he?
Yeah, that's right. And so the 16th Amendment was a very bad idea. Now, that was 106 years ago, and you can see what it's created here. It's created, for some people that are obsessed with the income tax, and they're obsessed with the idea that everybody has to pay into the income tax, and I need to know what that guy is earning because I want to know if he's spending all of his loot on, anyways.
Yeah. It's just a case of you like the income tax because you could use that as a warfare weapon against the successful. You know, let's tax the rich, tax the rich, tax the rich. Wasn't it Governor Cuomo, somebody from up there in one of those high-tax states, was finally realizing if you tax the rich, tax the rich, tax the rich, they leave.
Yeah, they do. And some of them moved to Florida.
Yeah, that's exactly what Limbaugh did. He left New York and came down here to Florida.
And lots of people do.
State with no income tax, by the way.
And my oldest son is looking into it. He lives in New York right now. But yeah, if you keep raising income taxes, trying to make things fair, you're going to scare people away. Just like nationwide, our federal income tax system has been scaring companies away, which means we lose jobs. Now, the Tax Cut and Jobs Act of 2017 reduced the corporate income tax, and it reduced the repatriation tax, which is money that when U.S. money, which is housed overseas, comes back to this country, it is taxed at a certain rate. They lowered that tax. All kinds of money started coming back. Corporations are saying, yeah, we're going to bring some of that money back, and we're going to build some new facilities. Whoa, what a concept. So, yeah. So what if we got rid of it altogether by going to the fair tax? You can see what happens. The fair tax is paid by the final consumer. This is what the founding fathers and the framers of the Constitution had in mind. They couldn't do a sales tax at that time because, 240 years ago, there were no computers. There was no way to really track it accurately. All right, so they couldn't do it. Now, it's very easy to do. You're a computer programmer.
I was. I'm retired now. Yeah. And I guarantee if I was writing the computer program that did income tax refunds, I would make sure that nobody got a $980,000 refund on an $18,000 income. We talked about that a couple of weeks ago.
Go back a couple of episodes for that one.
Oh, that was great. But you talk about being brainwashed by the income tax. What would you think? How people are brainwashed, and they really don't realize it. People think there's absolutely nothing wrong with earning, $400 a week and bringing home $270. They are just so used to looking at their paycheck, and they don't look at the top to see what they actually earn. They look down at the bottom where it says net pay. Oh, that's mine. They don't even realize that the government is robbing them blind with their withholding, making themselves everybody's highest spending priority. And then at the end of the year, when you get back a couple of $1,000s, oh, that's wonderful. No, you're getting back your own money that was taken from you. You have given the government an interest-free loan. And there's this big thing not too long ago about the size of the income tax refunds this year versus last year. And what are we
just so happen to have a report on the federal income tax. You remember a couple of episodes ago, I had a report that Democrats were attacking the Trump's tax plan because people's refunds were smaller than last year. Well, that was a few weeks ago. Now we have a report, even Steven. Tax refunds through 6 weeks of filing season are almost exactly as they were at the same level a year ago. Now, let me find this in here. Equivalent to a box of Cheerios. Okay. The average tax refund is exactly $4, is up exactly $4. So this year, the average refund is $3,008, whereas last year at this time, the average refund was $3,004.
So that's an extra box of Cheerios. But
Yeah.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
What would you do if I pulled my gun out of my pocket, pointed it at your head, and said, "You will give me an interest-free loan of $3,000"? You would probably pull out your gun.
Yeah.
Oh,
because
which is
I mean,
exactly what they're doing. That's
People,
exactly what the government is doing. When you get more withheld than you owe, you are giving the government an interest-free loan. And I want my interest-free loan, $3,000 pay up.
Ay, ay, ay. I mean, it's kind of amazing that
Probably
people,
not gonna get it.
and they were, you know, people in the press were really upset that people were getting smaller refunds. You know, I finally finished my taxes, and I owed them. I had to send some money in. I'm glad to do that. For one thing, I don't want them to owing me, which means I gave them an interest-free loan. All right.
Yeah, but the same people that would get incredibly indignant if you demanded an interest-free loan from them have no problem at all giving. They don't even realize that they're giving the government an interest-free loan, and that means they have been brainwashed by the income tax.
That's right. That's right. They get this this refund back, and I guess they think it's a bonus.
They
you know,
think
it's
it's
like getting a bonus
somebody
from
else's money.
work.
Yeah,
it's
the
not a
government
bonus. It's your money.
The government is giving me money. It's
So
no, you are being repaid the interest-free loan that you gave the government all during the year. But that's it. The people don't even realize it. You ask people how much money they make, you'll get one of three answers. None of your doggone business.
And there's, you know, on social media, the AFFT, which is on social media, AFFT is Randy. They posted one that was one of their most popular posts, and it showed a guy at McDonald's giving change back to the guy in the drive-thru. He said, so you go through the line, you make a $7.50 purchase, and you hand the guy a 20, and he gives you the change back, and you go, woohoo, I got a bonus. No, you got your change back. The tax refund is the same way. There's another thing about making sure that you don't get money back at the end of the year, because sometimes when you file your tax return and you got money coming back, you get a letter back from the IRS. Sorry, we already sent your refund back. Yeah, because somebody hacked the system.
Somebody swiped your identity.
Yeah, and they filed a phony tax return and got a huge tax refund in your name, and now you've got a world of hurt to go through to get your ID straightened out. It's not a good situation. That's another reason why I like to owe at the end of the year instead of have money coming back.
Well, get back to what I was talking about earlier. When you ask somebody how much they pay in taxes, you'll get one of three answers. None of your doggone business.
Yep.
Or they'll give you the amount of the check they had to write on April 15th.
Yeah.
Or the worst one, of course, is, I didn't have to pay anything. I got money back.
Yeah, brainwashed by the income tax.
Believe me, you paid a lot of tax. You just don't. The government has so skillfully hidden that from you. They take your money week after week after week. You don't even notice it because you look at the bottom of your paycheck stub and see what you get to bring home versus what you actually earned. And then at the end of the year, oh, they're giving me money. No, they're just giving you some of back what they have, forcibly taken from you. That's why I was talking about bringing out a gun and holding it to your head to demand an interest-free loan. That's what the government does. They don't use an actual firearm, but they do. They, by the force of law, they have the right to your money before you get it. That is wrong, and the FAIRtax gets rid of that entire corrupt, nasty system. That's why we should demand it. And if more people understood it, they would.
If you run into somebody who's been brainwashed by the current tax system, hopefully we're giving you some good information here on how to address those people, because they can be kind of stubborn, and they're so stuck on the income tax because it's all they've known their entire life, regardless of how old they are.
Nobody working today has ever known the system other than what we've got now. And since withholding went in World War II, so there are probably very few people working today that have not had to deal with withholding. It's just the way it is. Brainwashed people into thinking that that's the only way you can do it. No, it is not.
It's not a good situation here.
Well, we're run out of time. I see you got an article there about the tax refund fraud. That you
IRS crackdown ensnares legitimate taxpayers. Oh, this ought to be fun. Have they ever done that before? Have they ever gone after legitimate taxpayers and made their life a living hell?
The IRS?
Yeah,
that
oh my God.
Wonderful agency that everybody loves. Are you kidding me?
This is from USA Today, dated March 18th. Kim Henry thought she had a simple tax return this year. 59-year-old resident of Fort Wayne, Indiana, was expecting a small refund, $327. But after submitting her return electronically on the first filing day in January, she got a letter from the IRS about 2 weeks later asking her to verify her identity. She could do it online, over the phone, or in person. So she called. When she called, the IRS representative asked her a series of questions to confirm her identity: address, last tax filing, date and place of birth, her mother's maiden name, her father's name, and the source of her income in 2012. All right? The source of her, now it's 2019. She calls the IRS. They want to know the source of her income in 2012.
7 years ago.
Yeah. So she answered all correctly except one. She could not remember the administrator of the investment funds that had sent her a 1099 in 2012. Could you?
I doubt it.
I'd have to look it up, and if I'm on the phone, I say, look, I'm going to have to call you back. Anyways, that single memory lapse was enough to upend everything. She told me I had failed entirely the test, and I couldn't get my refund unless I went to the local IRS office and talked to them. So fraud detection ramps up. Okay, I'm glad that the IRS is trying to do something about fraud detection, but we've talked about this before. If the IRS goes after, tries to find fraud detection, there are 20% of the people, 21% of the people who are not paying their income tax, and part of that is illegal refunds. So 80% of the people are doing everything 100% legal and up and up. And chances are they're going to get hold of one of these 80% of the people who are doing everything right. And now she's got to go through all this nonsense to verify who she is,
And meanwhile, somebody gets a $980,000 refund.
So, anyways,
on an $18,000 income. I'm never going to forget that. That's the system we're dealing with, folks. And you, if you think the income tax is a good idea, have been brainwashed into thinking that's a good system. And we are here to fix that.
Yep. So far, the efforts have been successful. The volume of victims reporting identity theft fell 19% in the first 10 months of last year, 2018, compared to the same stretch, and 72% from the same period in 2015. So they are making inroads, but still too many legitimate taxpayers are getting caught up in the flagging process, according to Nina Olson, who heads the Office of Taxpayer Advocate.
Oh, yes. And, and there is a bill in Congress now to modernize her office.
Yep.
How wonderful. Does that mean she's going to get computers that are 5 years old instead of 15?
Last year, almost 2/3 of taxpayers caught by the IRS identity fraud filters were legitimate taxpayers. Yeah, yeah, at least 2/3. All right.
That's what you get when you get a stupid machine that can't think, that's actually analyzing.
Exactly. So the tax system just continues to be a system of harassment for legitimate taxpayers. This poor lady and hundreds and thousands of others have to go through all kinds of nonsense to prove who they are. What do? Go to the IRS office and whip out a mirror and say, yep, it's me.
Oh, I tell you what, I've learned, though, anytime you see something online where somebody asks you to verify your identity, that's usually somebody trying to steal it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
When you started reading that article, I thought, oh, that's an identity thief that's trying to get her information.
And in this case, it wasn't even an identity fraud. It was lack of knowledge of an income investor from 7 years ago. How many people would remember that?
Well, if I only had one, I might remember that. But if there was more than one, then...
Yeah, so anyways, it's just more evidence that the income tax is a failed system. We need to put it out of our misery. Yep. That's right.
tax.
We didn't talk about this last week.
Here. Yes.
All right. What's that represent?
This is the income tax. My 9x9 Rubik's Cube, all scrambled to pieces.
Yep.
And so, and when they make tax reform, that's what they do.
Yeah,
to
they
it.
just they make a little twist, and that's about
so
it.
The whole system is just so complicated, nobody can figure that out. And the flat tax isn't much better. It starts out pretty much that, and a little bit, then it becomes like that, and then they do that,
and then it comes,
and they do that to it, then they do that to it, and then they do that to it.
And for our podcast listeners, Bob's got his 8x8, and he's messing it up.
And before long, the flat tax looks just like the income tax.
Yeah, which is another cube that's messed up as the first one. For those of you listening to our podcast.
Car ride home, I'll have.
And remember, they're proposing 10 changes a day. Now, not all of those will become law, but some of them will. And the tax code is incessantly updated, you might say, and we're responsible for the whole thing. So we wanted to do the fair tax. It was just the Rubik's Cube that's 2x2. It's very simple. So, anyways.
Oh, here's a good one. We're looking through Congress.gov. I just found another one here, H.R. 1804, to amend the Internal Revenue Code of 1986. Now, you got to follow this. To prohibit qualified amateur sports organizations from prohibiting or substantially restricting the use of an athlete's name, image, or likeness and for other purposes. You got that?
No. I have to admit, I'm going to have to read that several times.
That came from Mark Walker of North Carolina District 6. One co-sponsor.
One co-sponsor.
You will prohibit. Why is stuff like that in the tax code?
Yeah.
It makes no sense that we have a tax code where people are in there talking about what qualified sports amateur leagues can do about somebody's name or image or likeness. What does that have to do with collecting revenue for the government? Nothing.
And Bob,
yes.
Your all-time favorite tax change proposal?
My all-time favorite tax change proposal, this was in the tax code, the definition of municipal solid waste.
Yep, to change the definition of municipal solid waste. That was actually a proposal. I mean, it could be there this year. We haven't done an exhaustive study of all the proposals, but we did see that last year.
Oh, mercy.
So,
and all that junk's in the tax code. And people, again, have no problem with it. The fact that folks have no problem with this kind of stuff being part of the tax code means they have been brainwashed.
Yep.
So we're here to unbrainwash you for that.
A couple of things here. We hope you enjoyed last week's webinar. All right. Our webinars are put on every 3 months by Jade Wally, is a CPA friend of ours in Colorado. And you can, even if you weren't able to tune into it live, it's still there. You go to Webinar Ninja and look up the FAIRtax, and you'll see it because they keep it there. The last webinar, the one we did in December, that we had some technical problems with, we had over 1,500 people that registered to look at that thing. That's pretty darn good.
It is.
Yep.
You got about 2 minutes left to hit your logo store stuff.
Okay. Now, last week somebody asked about why they can't find the ceramic mugs, and that's because ceramic mugs, when you try to ship them, the handles break off. But there are travel mugs, and I think there's some plastic mugs. There are some others. And please go to FAIRtaxLogoStore.org and order your palm cards. This is order 100 of these, order a package of them, and then when you're talking to your friends about the FAIRtax, you can give them this. That one you can take to your congressman's town hall. Absolutely, those scrolling banners are great. The prebate cards are there. Basic information about the FAIRtax on one side, the prebate schedule on the other. Pins, pens, scrolling banners, hats, shirts, jackets, tote bags, lunch pails. They have more stuff with the FAIRtax logo on it.
Yeah, we need an umbrella. It never rains here in Florida, though, right?
Yeah, right. So, anyways, it's a great way to demonstrate your support for the FAIRtax visibly so everybody can see it. So please go to the store and order something and demonstrate your and don't worry, if those of you who are wealth envy advocates, we're not making a lot of money. In fact, we're actually losing money in the FAIRtax logo store. That's all right. It's an advertising promotion, okay? It's counted as an advertising expense. I expect to lose money on it, no problem.
And again, we invite people to send us questions and comments to thefairtaxguys@gmail.com Like us our Facebook page, leave us a question or comment there, and we will use it on FAIRtax Power Radio if it's a good one. Until then, that's going to wrap up this edition of FAIRtax Power Radio. Thank you so much for listening. I'm Bob Paxton.
And I'm Ron Malero.
We are the FAIRtax Guys, reminding you once again that the FAIRtax is America's big solution, and once you understand it,
you'll understand it, and you won't be brainwashed by the income tax anymore.
Oh, these income tax forms are way too complicated. There's got to be a better way. Who are you?
We're the FAIRtax Guys.
We've got a big solution for you.
What's that?
It's the FAIRtax. Completely eliminates the federal income tax system as we know it. No more withholding, no more payroll taxes, no more tax returns ever, no more IRS. All gone. And I guarantee you, once you understand it,
you'll demand it.
Yeah.
We got to get